The Next Breast Thing podcast is primarily funded by the American Society of Breast Surgeons. The support of sponsorships helps us offset some production costs. ASBRS does not endorse or co-promote any company, product, or service mentioned.
This episode of The Next Breast Thing was made possible through the generous support of Myriad Oncology.
Myriad Oncology provides a portfolio of advanced genetic and tumor genomic testing solutions, including risk assessment, screening, tools to aid treatment guidance, and survivorship planning. The Myriad Oncology offering is designed to meet the unique needs of oncology specialists and their patients across each step in the patient care continuum.
To learn more, visit myriad.com/oncology.
Hey listeners, want us to let you know when new episodes are available? Simply hit the subscribe or follow button on the Next Breast Thing podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, join the conversation on our Facebook group by searching the Next Breast Thing podcast group on Facebook.
On this episode of The Next Breast Thing, I am very excited to announce
I have cow problems now. Over the weekend, the guy that takes...
they went to a smash room. I just moved, actually, so I am...
How to educate our patients every step of the way.
Some people want more of a high-level discussion. Some people...
It's critically important for them to have the knowledge.
Some people go out to the parking lot and they have no idea what I just said.
I do it quite differently than everyone else. I just piloted it to see if it helped, and it really did. And
how do we get our team to help educate our patients?
I have a very high population of those anxious, internet searching.
I was sort of debating whether to kind of bring this up or not, but
I'll bring it on.
I know. I knew you'd love this.
Bring it on. Come on. So I am not a fan. How many appointments do you have for the typical patient that you're taking right to the operating room?
Their time is as valuable as mine. And if I can limit the time that they're having to come and sit in my office.
There are a lot of questions I can't answer well. How do I tell my 8-year-old daughter? This is Carla,
Ellie,
Michael,
Susie,
and Susan. Welcome to The Next Breast Thing, a podcast by the American Society of Breast Surgeons for the entire breast community.
We're a group of devoted surgeons from different parts of the country,
inviting you to journey with us into the science of breast
through the heart and soul of our breast community.
From advances in procedures and patient care to personal transformation, we're here to support you.
So, if you're part of the breast community and can't seem to find the answers, this is the Next Breast Thing.
Our topic today is how to educate our patients every step of the way. But before we get started, let's begin with some personal and professional updates. Susie, let's start with you.
Well, my daughter and I did another trip, but this trip was a little bit different. We went and saw some of her biologic family. So we got to see 2 of her half-sisters and her biologic mom and spend time with them. And that trip is always really hard for me because it's not about me, but it was really neat. They went to a smash room. I don't know if you all have seen those, but they got all geared up and they had face masks on. They got all these bottles they could throw and break windows and a TV. And it was crazy how much I paid for like 30 minutes of fun. Later, I took them to Goodwill and they each got a little budget and they got to dress each other up like in the most horrific clothes ever, whatever they could find in 20 minutes. And then we went out to eat. We had a really fun time with that. So it was neat for them to be together. Carla, what about you?
I want you to be my mom, Susie. Sounds like fun. Also, I think we should probably do some smash rooms more at work. I think that's probably a good way to get out some frustrations at different times.
I am very excited to announce that the renovation is over. Thrilled with the outcome. It's beautiful. The real goal of the renovation was functional. So I'm thrilled that we achieved that while also achieving something beautiful as well.
The move back in is a process, but what I'm most excited about is that my commute to work is now 10 minutes instead of being an hour and 20 minutes. So you can expect just ridiculous productivity from me. I'm working on some research projects and all sorts of things. I've got 2 hours of my day back, and I should probably be exercising way, way, way more.
When will you listen to the podcast now?
I actually was listening to an old episode this morning, and I was listening to it at 1.5 speed. So I just have to listen to it a lot faster, and you learn who talks quickly and who speaks a little bit more slowly in real time. And I talk very fast at 1.5. So I'm going to work on talking a little bit slower. Michael, how about you? Did you survive another weekend?
I don't have access to this RV anymore, and I'm happy if somebody else wants to have access to it. I have cow problems now. So over the weekend, the guy that takes care of the cows took all of his calves and sold them and left Bovie in the herd. So Bovie is the only baby in the herd right now, and I need to sell this cow. I don't know if I can get it in the back of my wife's car and transport it to the auction or not. I'm going to have to try to do that. So
And it would fit in the RV.
Well, the RV is on lockdown right now, but so that's what I've got to get rid of Bovie. Evidently, beef price is pretty high right now. I don't think it'll stand in the back of the pickup truck, but if I can cram it into the back of her sedan, I think it'll work.
You're talking about selling your babies, cramming them into cars. What's going on?
Did I tell you that I survived a fire? I had a near-death experience.
How are you hydrating the cows? The USDA was out there. What were they doing? They were drinking everything for this cow.
Well, your tax dollars at work.
I mean, I feel like I own the cow. I have to tell you.
Well, I wish you did own the cow. And it's, let me tell you the price on that. Ellie, since there's no football in the Los Angeles area, and even if there were, you wouldn't care.
Correct.
What's up?
I just moved, actually. So I am coming off of a whirlwind of a 3-day pack-a-thon, move-a-thon. I'm not one of those people who can leave anything in a box at all. So my poor husband and I, we did this super fast. We did everything in 3 days. Now the place is totally set up. It's great, but those 3 days are hell. So I'm coming back from that. I have bruises all over. Same with my husband. But we moved to a great place that's more walkable. It reminds me of, I did residency in New York City and I could walk everywhere. And that was just my favorite thing ever. And where we moved to now, it's next to my favorite coffee shop and restaurants and by the beach. So it's all worth it. But being in the move absolutely sucked. So did not enjoy that. Carla, I feel your pain. I can only imagine doing that for months and months and moving back and forth in and out of your house. I forget every time how bad it is, but it's worth it in the end. So that's what's up with me.
What'd you do at the cold plunge? Did it come with you?
No, it went to Goodwill. Yeah, we live next to a cold plunge now at the gym, so I don't need it anymore.
Susie, maybe next time you're at Goodwill, you could pick that one up.
I was thinking, I love Goodwill.
No, we made my dad cold plunge today. He did it for the first time and he loved it. So guys, get on it.
Look at that. All right, let's move on to our topic. From diagnosis to survivorship, patient education is one of the most powerful tools that we have to reduce anxiety for our patients, empower decision-making for our patients, and improve outcomes for our patients. But meaningful education isn't just a handout. It's a continuous, tailored conversation. It is not one size fits all. So today, we're sharing our tips, tricks, hacks, and stories regarding patient education. Let's start with Michael.
The education piece is difficult because you have to kind of tailor it to your audience. Some people want more of a high-level discussion. Some people, I will describe DCIS like a yellow flower dandelion and invasive cancer like a white puff dandelion, and that works, and people will understand that. There's been a lot of improvements with this, though. There are videos that are out there now that are very tailored to certain cancers, that are very short, easy to watch, easy to read. I'll tell you what else has been really helpful to me is to have an APP that is willing to go in and spend that time and really instruct the patient. And if you want to say, where do most of my patients get their real true education, it may be more from the APP than it is from me.
Can I ask, where did your APP get their information from?
Well, they got it from me.
I set you up for...
Yeah, it is. They lay off the dandelion examples, but they listen to me for several weeks, several months, and they sort of get the cadence of what I'm going to say. And then they can pick it up. And it really extends what I can do because they can go in and start a discussion from the beginning, and then I can come back in later on and talk about it. I don't forego the education piece, but they can really expound on it.
Okay, Michael, I fully expected as president of...
Oh, you mean the APP certification? Trying to get this cow in the back of my wife's car. Give me a break.
We've still got some...
You do want them to speak as your voice. And there is a lot of education that we offer through the society. Clearly, there's a certification process. There is a lot of information that we give the APPs. But you also want them to be speaking with your voice as well.
I completely agree, but I think it's critically important for them to have the knowledge and the fund of knowledge, because patients will ask them questions and maybe they've heard that question before and maybe they've heard us answer that and maybe not. But if they have that fund of knowledge through the APP certification course from ASBRS, that's enormously helpful. Carla, are your APPs certified?
Yes, we have 3, and they actually all enrolled in the course last year. Yeah, because I think we had the first year about 2 years ago, and then they were the second cohort, which I think Michael kind of talked about the 2 ways that are great for educating them. So part of it is getting in, seeing patients, working alongside the physician. And a lot of them spent time with me and the other physicians. And then after that, enrolled in the course. And I think, like all of us, we probably learn through different means, and hearing things through me and learning about the treatment of breast cancer or genetics or high risk, and then doing a formal course, I think allows you to really complement those things. And I think talking about patient education is the same thing as well. Hearing it from me and then hearing it from somebody else, it kind of is like a puzzle piece that starts to kind of fit together. And it's not just hearing it from me really loudly or hearing it from me multiple times is going to make it stick. I think it's hearing it from people in different ways and the different modalities patients are able to access the information.
I think that's so critically important. I have my patients thank me for doing it the similar fashion, that my APP will go in, have the whole cancer discussion, and then I come in. And I definitely get fewer questions because they've gone in and spent so much time answering the questions, and they get similar information, but through different styles. And I think that different things appeal to different patients. So Susie, how do you do it in your office?
I think you really focused on something important about different styles. So something some people don't know about me is I have my master's in medical education. I was working on my PhD. And one of the things I was looking at was adult learning and our students learning what we're trying to teach. But you can extrapolate that also to our patients hearing what we're teaching them. And what we have to also acknowledge, that this is during a high stress period in their lives. And literally, when we're in high stress, our ears close. We don't hear all the information, and there's so much overload. I start out talking to my patients, say, is there anything that's on your mind right now? And it might be that conversation of, am I going to die? Let's get that out of the way so then we can have this other discussion. And then I also tell them, hey, listen, some people go out to the parking lot and they have no idea what I just said. You know what? Email back in through the portal. We can set up a follow-up. This is a lot of information all at once. And some people are real visual learners, and asking them, hey, do you need me to draw something? I'm terrible at drawing, but I'm willing to try that. Or have some good professional diagrams that are out there and ask how people learn. And some people really want to watch videos and having that as a resource, and other people like reading an entire book. And coming back with questions. And so I think asking how people learn, but it is always shocking to me that I feel like I have the same conversation or a similar conversation. And like many of you, my APPs also have that. So we're repeating information, which is critical. And on the day of surgery, sometimes people are like, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that looks like. And I'm like, I literally had it in my hand and described how we're going to put this in. And it's when the port comes out that they're like, oh, wow. Because they are at a spot where they can learn.
Ellie, how are your patients? I know you're in California, so a little different in everything that they do. How do you handle it?
I do it quite differently than everyone else. And I do have a pretty educated patient population. I'm also in an age group where I'm getting a lot of the younger breast cancers that come through the door. I do pre-appointment videos and podcasts that I give them to listen to before they see me. And I've recorded them once. It's like, what to expect at your preoperative appointment? What does your pathology report say? What does it mean? What are the types of surgeries? What can you expect if you have a HER2 positive or triple negative, blah, blah, blah. I have those videos and I have a very high population of those anxious, internet searching, very, very thirsty for information patients. Basically, they're coming into my office and they had Googled all the wrong things. I spent half the time having to dispel misinformation that they could get mammograms, that compression was okay. All of that stuff, I was wasting so much time on that. I was like, look, I need to give them accurate information that I want them to know, because like you guys are saying, when you tell them that in the appointment and they're stressed, they retain maybe 10 to 20% of what you say. And you end up doing a million phone calls after. Your APP wastes time on that. And I was just so annoyed with having to do this over and over. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. Let's see if I can do something. I'm pretty tech savvy, so I figured out how to go on YouTube and do this. I figured out how to make a couple podcasts, and I slapped it on a website. And I had my nurse give this to them. Once they get an appointment with me, they get the email that says, check out her website, check out her videos, and the patients devour it. And by the time they get to me, on average, they have visited the site 7 times. They have watched videos 10 times. They love this. And by the time they get to me, they know what DCIS is, they know what invasive cancer is, and we can actually have a really high-level conversation. They're ready to be like, okay, do I want a mastectomy or a lumpectomy? I've already talked about some of the general side effects, and I just piloted it to see if it helped, and it really did. And now I'm working, at least at my hospital, to kind of expand this for other surgeons. General surgeons want to do this for gallbladders. There is a rising patient population who wants the digital access to things. Is this right for your 80, 90-year-olds who don't know how to work their computer? Probably not. But for the tech-savvy patient, I found it works really well and frees up a lot of my time. It has reduced so many repetitive questions, and I can't say enough good things about it. As breast surgeons, we need to be negotiating for is saying, hey, I want this from the hospital. I want help making videos. I want help making patient education accessible, because it does save on visit time. It saves on resources. It's really been a game changer in my early practice.
So wait a second. I feel like you're picking on the 80 and 90-year-olds who you claim not to be tech savvy. Michael, I'm advocating for your age group here. I don't want this myth.
Just give me a handout.
Didn't we already discuss that Michael still has a VHS?
Ellie, I agree with the importance of that, but what I think you're missing in that is, even if your 80 and 90-year-old patients are not tech savvy, their children are.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's not just important for your tech savvy patients, whoever they may be, whatever age range, but if they're not tech savvy, I guarantee you their loved ones are.
What I love about this, Ellie, is that when people get a Friday afternoon diagnosis and they're not able to see someone, they have a resource that they can start piling through, and knowing the information's coming from you, who they're going to see. I think that's really special. It's a nice bridge.
When they come in, they're like, oh, I feel like I already know you. They already trust me, which that takes the whole visit to get there usually. So like just introducing yourself, and we're expanding it too to like having the nurse navigator be like, hey, I'm Claire. I'm going to meet you on Tuesday. Happy to see you. Like, can't wait to meet you and take care of you. Then they have a face and can kind of understand the team. So there's all kinds of things we can do with this. But Susan, you bring up a great point. Their children are tech savvy, and I have seen that. They've been like, oh, we found your podcast or your videos and we think it's awesome. It's just been a really cool way to reach them in a different way, because people learn, like you said, in all different ways.
These points that you all bring up are critically important. And I think what's equally important is that we cannot be everything to everyone. How do you get all the resources? Ellie, what you've said is a great example of, hey, I can't do this every time, but here's some videos. How else do we help utilize and get our team, because none of us do this alone, we all have a team. How do we get our team to help educate our patients?
I think what Ellie's doing is amazing for so many reasons. Major kudos to you. You've got an entrepreneurial spirit already, and what you're doing is great for many reasons. Not all of us are going to be able to do that, and maybe not all of our patients demand that. One of the things that any of us should take from that is a touch point from your office prior to the patient walking into your office for your Monday appointment at 3 p.m. is an important thing to have. And to follow up to your question, Susan, my nurse navigator is the person who does that. So, hi, I'm so-and-so. I work with Dr. Fisher. So maybe they're not seeing a YouTube video of me, which may or may not be cooler than that, but she's also introducing, you're going to be meeting with Dr. Fisher. This is what she's going to be talking to you about. You have a diagnosis of invasive ductal carcinoma. I see that we have your receptors back. In general, this is how we treat this type of cancer. And so she is starting that education process, and that has been life-changing. And I love it because, again, that puzzled piece, that layered piece, it starts to lay the groundwork. And
is that a phone call?
It's a phone call. And I'm going to say something. I was sort of debating whether to kind of bring this up or not, but
I'll bring it on.
I know. I knew you'd love this.
Bring it on. Come on.
So I am not a fan of the 1.5 to 2 hour initial cancer appointments. I don't think patients get a lot out of that. They may want that or think they want that. There's ways that you can have those conversations and cover things in a shorter time period. And I think there's ways to utilize the time before and after to cover those things. And going back to Susie's point in terms of adult learning and a stressful time, 1.5 hours of retaining 10% or nothing is wasted time for you and the patient. And so figuring out how you can meet your patient's needs. 10 minutes is maybe not the best, but some patients really, you talk for 10 minutes and they aren't asking much more. But some of the patients may want that 1.5 hours, but you can figure out how to get that information across to those information hungry patients in a shorter period of time and follow up in different ways and not waste your time and theirs. But I think those sort of 2 or 3 hour appointments where patients are meeting with so many people up front, I think is overwhelming.
So let me ask you, how many appointments do you have for the typical patient that you're taking right to the operating room? How many appointments do you have before the surgery with your office? How many times do they have to come in? How many phone calls?
For me, it's one visit. And if it's a follow-up MRI, I can do that over the phone. If it needs a discussion, I can bring them back in. That's super easy. But, people need more than one visit. For sure, speak up. We're happy to do that. But I think one visit should cover it.
Neoadjuvant patients are maybe 2 or...
Right, neoadjuvant patients are different. I'm saying patients diagnosed with cancer, early stage breast cancer, they're going right to the operating room. So they make an appointment with you. Do you see them once and then schedule surgery? Do you see them twice and then schedule surgery? How many appointments?
1.
I mean, you just told me that you have a 10-minute appointment with them.
No, I'm not saying there is a 10-minute appointment. That I'm not saying is the...
I'm a little concerned here.
I would say 30 minutes.
30 minutes in the office or 30 minutes with you?
It depends, but it could cover both. Again, very wide range of patients. Definitely not a one size fits all, but I would say it's usually one visit. There's definitely patients, like Susie said, get an MRI and have no additional findings. We touch base over the phone. We move forward to surgery. It is very important to me that when a patient goes to the operating room, they feel 100% comfortable with what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And if there is any hesitation, we bring them back in. We can do a virtual visit. The one visit is not something that I feel like, oh, I want to have one visit and then get you to the operating room. If they need to come back for a second visit, that is always on the table. But most of the time, that is not necessary. And I'm trying to save them time. Occasionally, we all know those patients, the second look ultrasound, the biopsy, they've got atypia. We might need to do an ultrasound here. They met with the plastic surgeon. Let's regroup and kind of talk about what we need to do. Or sometimes I demand it, or I say, look, we need to kind of sit down and talk again because this is a completely different conversation than when we first met. But I'd say 80-90% of the patients, it's one visit.
Carla, the other thing I really like about what you said is it reminded me of wrapping up a visit and saying, hey, so in summary, I ordered an MRI. You're going to call to order it, or we'll have our nurse navigator help you organize it. We've sent off genetic testing. Our office will call you with those results and sending that summary at the end. So people have maybe 3 things they need to do or wrap up. So they have a punchline that's not a 10-item checklist.
Ellie, how do you go about it? How many visits do you have?
Typically one, unless there's multiple biopsies, or a lot of the time, especially for the pretty extensive oncoplastic stuff, we are placing biopsy markers around to help with our localization, essentially. So more often than not, there is more than one appointment, just because, again, it'll show up as atypia, or if it's not, we have to talk about, do they want it out still? So it's usually maybe 2 on average, but sometimes 1. But yeah, I have the nurse talk through the many normal results so that that's off my plate. But if there's something that's changing surgical management, I have to be the one to talk about it.
Agree. Michael, in your office, how often are patients coming in? And all of our offices are different. I frequently have patients traveling a few hours to see me. So to have them coming back again really takes a toll on them. And we have to remember the financial implications of copays and high deductible plans and extra visits. So Michael, how do you do it in your office?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, we try to wrap this up in one visit, and they always have either the nurse's number or the APP's number that they can call and ask questions. Now, there are those times when the nurse comes to me and says, they're asking so many different questions than we covered that I'm not able to answer that. And this doesn't happen much. I'll occasionally say, then bring them back and let me talk to them again. That's going to be their choice to come in. Sometimes we offer it and they say, no, I'm fine. Or they'll come back in and sit down and talk and maybe bring another family member. But I'm with you. I'm trying not to waste their time. I want to maximize my time, yes. But there's a lot of folks that will bring people in, do genetic testing, bring them back, do something else, bring them back. That just never felt good to me. Their time is as valuable as mine. And if I can limit the time that they're having to come and sit in my office, which is always a lot longer than the time I'm spending with them, then I want to try to limit that if I can.
Michael, I think you also brought up another good point about having a family member or a friend at that visit. And there's some people who really need that. And it may not be their spouse or their partner that's the best support person or best listener or best note taker. Some people come alone and they need to have the information themselves first to process, and then asking who's your support, I think is important. And we also talked about the role of the nurse navigator. There are a lot of questions I can't answer well. How do I tell my 8-year-old daughter? Well, the nurse navigator is going to have a lot more experience than I do. You all might do great with that conversation, but I love being able to rely on other people who have seen this across many, many patients and be able to have those conversations.
I'm so lucky in my office. We have a nurse navigator, but we also have a social worker who sees every cancer patient, and she can handle those issues. She gives all the resources. So the nurse navigator and the social worker sort of complement each other, and everyone on the team compliments me because we all work together to get this patient, as I said, walk alongside them through it. The goal is to take their hand and guide them through. What I say to patients all the time is, I cannot change the fact that you have breast cancer. If I could, I would. I cannot change that fact, but we can change your experience. And that's super important. Through everything that we have discussed tonight, we all change those patients' experience with breast cancer. Taking care and treating the cancer is so important, but treating the whole patient is equally important. So I really think that all the tips that you've given here tonight are so important. They really do allow us to walk alongside the patient. Ellie, we all learn from each other. So what's one of your takeaways that you've learned, certainly not from me, but from some of our other co-hosts that are much smarter than I am?
One of the common themes that everyone mentioned was how valuable everyone's time is. Maximizing your team, hearing that the nurse navigator is going through the diagnosis. I don't have that in my practice. That gave me a light bulb moment. That would be great if I could have her do that on a Friday afternoon or, just like you were discussing. That would be so good. But just having that reminder to have everyone working at the top of their license so that we have the ability to do what we do best, which is surgery and meeting the patients and being their guide and really making sure that our time is protected. We don't need to spend all that time answering all those questions if we have our other team members helping us. So this was just a great reminder. And you guys have all talked about that, how throughout your careers, you've done that. You've built these teams. And I'm in that phase now of figuring out how to build it. And training someone is really hard. I have no idea how to do that. So.
Time consuming. But Ellie, one of the things that you've said, and it's why your viewpoint here is so critical and so important, is I can tell you, as you mature in your career, you become so much more comfortable letting go of things and allowing other people to do things. As you just said, I want to do everything myself. I don't have that feeling anymore. I did initially. I went through my day like a resident with checklists and, okay, I have to follow up on this patient and this patient. I don't do that anymore because I have such a fabulous team. Now it takes time to build that, and you do train them and teach them and treat them wonderfully because they make your life better. Susie, what's your takeaway?
I want to make some video shorts. So I think I'm going to put that on my list maybe for 2026, my bingo card.
I like it. Carla?
I'm not sure that I'll make the video shorts. It's not the right thing for my practice right now, but I do think it's a great idea. And I think it hits 2 points, as you said, Ellie. It educates patients ahead of time. And we all know that patients coming through the door and sitting down with you and not starting from ground zero is really helpful. But the other part of it that I didn't think about, which is helpful to hear about, is they have built some trust in you already. Knowing you a little bit is helpful at any stage in your career, but just as Susan said, hearing your input as you start in your career, it is harder to build that trust with patients. I remember earlier on in my practice, especially as a female, I felt that a little bit more strongly. And I think that's a great technique that you're doing. So again, kudos to you for that.
And Michael?
Yeah,
let's have you wrap it up this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna kudo Ellie again on this. I've been doing it the same way with some changes for 30 years. And it's 2025. It's not 1995. And the time that I have left, I'm probably not going to hit the old YouTube circuit. I ought to empower my younger partners to really investigate some of this. Just because they've joined my practice doesn't mean they have to practice like me. And I think empowering them with some of these great ideas that you have and really kind of stepping up to the modern patient that we're dealing with, I think is a tremendous idea. And I'm excited about what we can maybe offer our patients with your ideas.
So Ellie, I echo it's critically important for patients to see us, to hear us, to feel like they know us a bit before meeting us at one of the scariest times in their lives. To all of our listeners throughout the entire breast community, we're so excited you've joined us on this journey of patient education. And we look forward to seeing you next time on the Next Breast Thing podcast.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of The Next Breast Thing, a podcast by the American Society of Breast Surgeons for the breast community.
Also, join the conversation on our Facebook group by searching the Next Breast Thing podcast group on Facebook.
Finally, the content within the Next Breast Thing podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-host and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the American Society of Breast Surgeons.
Until next time, this is Carla.
Ellie.
Michael.
Susie.
And Susan. And always remember, if you're part of the breast community and can't seem to find the answers, this is the next breast thing.